For me, it's not just what it means in my work life, it's just what it means to everybody across all societies across the world. I feel like the world has given us a narrative about what it means to be a girl and what it means to be a boy, and it starts from the minute that we're born. You know, I can't help thinking that we're just all born to be one thing, human. It's our birthright to remain fully human and not to adjust ourselves to whatever society deems to be acceptable. So girls are like taught to be quiet and pretty and accommodating and pleasant, whereas boys are taught to be tough and competitive and powerful. And as we grow older, for girls, being bold and outspoken is seen as bullshit, and for boys, vulnerability is seen as shameful. It's more about my kind of personality. It's not a specific thing that I've felt barriers relating to my work in my field, but I think generally I've just always kind of suffered from a bit of a lack of self-belief and a lack of self-confidence. And you know, I've been really lucky to be surrounded by people who have been able to lift me up in their own way, whether that be the people that I work with or my friends or my family. So I've been surrounded by people that have really kind of encouraged me all my life, which is great. But even now I'm kind of in a position of leadership, which is something that I take really, really seriously. I still get a sense of imposter syndrome. And it's really funny because I mentioned that word to one of my male colleagues a few weeks ago, actually, saying I still kind of feel imposter syndrome, and he'd never even heard of those words, he didn't know what it was. But I guess for me, that's what it is. It's about just having that self-confidence that you kind of, you work hard for things and then you deserve everything that you get, instead of being grateful for what you've got. Like, have that self-belief to know that you deserve what you've got. Would be really interesting. I actually think some of the most, powerful women in society have probably felt a sense of imposter syndrome at one time or another. When you think of roles generally in, like marketing and HR, they're generally filled by females. Maybe that's a stereotype in itself. The stereotype for me that I really don't like isn't actually about the roles that you take. It's about women in certain industries or women at certain levels, and particularly actually women of a certain age. It's something that one of our colleagues raised on one of our chat boxes this morning. I have felt it myself, and I've actually even been guilty of thinking it myself in the past when I was a young whippersnapper. Of that women of a certain age are going to be less valuable in the workplace as they start to think about marriage and children. And I am completely guilty of that being one of my biases when I was younger. That, you would be a young 20-year-old working really hard, staying late in the office, and seeing women kind of coming into the office looking all frazzled at like 9 minutes, and then leaving the office, dead on 5 o'clock or even earlier to get home to their families, and I would view that as something bad. But the reality of it, when you live in that life, is something completely different, because having children completely changes your perspective on the world and your value as an individual. You get all these different identities that you need to sort of live up to, if you like, and each one of them is just as important as the other. So it's like the more identities you get, the more you start to focus on exactly what's important and what you want to achieve for yourself. So, viewing these women who were coming into the office late or leaving early, what I didn't see is that they probably already been up since hours before I rolled out of bed. you know, doing a job that they had to do for their family, and they were going home to do it again so that they could, you know, see the kids and put the kids to bed, you know, read them a story before they went to sleep. And then probably if anything like today's society, they would get the laptop out again after hours and start work all over again, because, you know, you just have more things that you want to achieve, the more things that you get in life. So the stereotype for me, it's not a stereotype that's specifically attached to a female in a certain role. I just think it's a stereotype that's attached to women of a certain age in all industries, that they're going to get to an age where they want to get married and have children, and that could be viewed in the workplace as something negative, when actually, having lived through it, it's something that is just so positive. I've definitely changed my perspective through experience on that. I mean, since the dawn of time, since there was a thing called work, just women have been given less opportunities than men in the workplace. And with so little positions of leadership available, it means that there's this culture, or there has been in the past, and I do feel like we're kind of overcoming it a little bit, but there's this culture of sort of pitting women against each other. If there's only one seat for a woman in the boardroom, then and there's, you know, 10 women in the organisation that could be on that seat, then, you know, it just pits people against each other. But I think for me it's about there's some really wise women in the world that have spoken about this and given some really famous phrases, which are things that I always play back in my head. Maya Angelou being one of them. She's absolutely amazing. But she always said, each time a woman stands up for herself, she stands up for all women. And I think it's just important to think that if you're in an organisation, or if you're within a team where there's a woman that gets to that level, we should all celebrate that, because that's a win for females all over the world. I only wish there was just more seats available, because like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who we lost last year, said women belong in all places where decisions are being made. They just, from my experiences of working for both male and female bosses, I can just see the differences in styles, and you know, not that one's better than the other or anything like that. There's just quite often different styles, like people from different, we talk so much about diversity and inclusion, people from different genders, different races, different cultural backgrounds, they all bring their own unique view to the world, which is so important and so powerful, that each of these need to be represented in the boardroom, in my view, and that way we get better outcomes, better organisations, and better lives for people in general in the workplace. It's about looking at the wider issues of inequality, and that's not to say men and women are equal, because we're not equal. This was something that Sarah said actually on an International Women's Day a couple of years ago. We're not equal, but what we want to aim for is being co-equal in the world. So recognising our differences, but also being able to recognise that each of those differences are equally important and can equally offer, you know, value to the world. Be grateful, but don't just be grateful. Be grateful and brave. Be grateful and ambitious. Be grateful and righteous. Be grateful and persistent. Be grateful and loud. Be grateful for what you've got and demand what you deserve.